Tell me about the benefits that come with the online banking, with the virtualization, the digitalization of the social function of banking.
If you abstract away and you think, what is the problem with just having one bank in one town? Well, it's pretty obvious. Your market size is extremely small. And to put this in less put it into more continental terms, the problem is that you don't have bargaining power. So people in the town don't have bargaining power because they have to deal with that one bank, and if it has problems, then you can't really escape those problems, and it can engage in sort of rent seeking on the people who are in that town. So when you have a globalized market to differing degrees, which we're entering into now in banking, people are able to have greater bargaining power in relation to banks. And so this keeps the banks more honest in relation to their conduct with individuals, we think. Of course, if you have a globalized market and something else happens where all your banks pull together and end up as one bank, then you're in a far worse position. But right now, the most interesting thing happening is Bitcoin. It's probably the most interesting intellectual development on the internet in the last 5 years.
Can you talk about Bitcoin a bit for people?
Sure. Okay, so a lot of people will have heard about Bitcoin but not really understand it. So you think, okay, it's some online currency, what's the big deal? There's, you can have a PayPal account, or that's kind of like an online currency, or even your Visa card. Well, actually all the processing occurs online. Isn't that really like an online currency? Or you can buy gold, that's kind of like an online currency. But Bitcoin is different because it is a currency that cryptographically backed, multi-jurisdictional, which means that it's very hard for any one power group in any particular jurisdiction to start turning it into a rent-seeking apparatus. The underlying technology of Bitcoin is cryptography on the one hand, and the ability for cryptography to create situations that can defend itself or the people who use it against even the full might of a superpower. A full might of a superpower doesn't help you smash a mass problem. A mass problem is a mass problem, and it's something that is connected to the existence of intelligence in the universe or basic physics. It's not something you can get at simply through overwhelming coercive power or lots of people. And the other component of Bitcoin, the other underlying basic technology, is proof of publication at a particular time. And we've never really had that. Insofar as, okay, if you look at the great Soviet encyclopedia back in 1954, and the NKVD head, Beria, had just gone out of favor with the death of Stalin. And so he had a page-and-a-half entry in an encyclopedia, and it was decided it was time to remove that and put in an expanded entry of the Bering Strait. That's that body of water between Alaska and Vladivostok. And of course, to actually do that, the encyclopedia maker had to write the new entry and post it out to all the libraries that had encyclopedias, say, tear out that page and stick this page in. And that's why I'm telling you this story right now, because everyone noticed. But in the digital world, we can delete history extremely easily. And history, even without an attempt to delete it, starts disappearing as a result of startup companies going under or particular bits of history not becoming profitable anymore. And that notion of being able to disappear history entered into Orwell's writing, and you can look at what is, I think, his most substantive intellectual comment, which is he who controls the present controls the past, he who controls the past controls the future. And it's this notion that the past as an archive, as a history of our civilization, as a history of development, is in fact present right now in something physically contained in the library, in computer servers, in human beings' heads. That history doesn't exist except its remnants that exist in the present. And so if you can get at these remnants, you can make particular inconvenient parts of history disappear and amplify others.
I'm going to stop you for a moment.
Anyway,
because
Bitcoin in its underlying technology breaks Orwell's dictum. It breaks Orwell's dictum by providing proof of publishing at a certain time. And that is the intellectual underpinning of that whole system and can be used for lots and lots of other things. And so that's the big expansion we're about to see in Bitcoin, all derives from this basic premise that you can prove that a particular statement, a particular consensus, a particular contract happened at a particular time globally, and it requires the subversion of every single jurisdiction where people are running Bitcoin to overturn that.
am I right in understanding that you're saying that the Bitcoin architecture has applications far beyond the economic role that Bitcoin can play, and that architecture is very strengthening to the life of information in the digital space, making it less vulnerable to the kind of mischief you talked about in Russia or elsewhere? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, exactly. That underlying architecture can be used for publishers, for example, so that, as an example, we are starting to use Bitcoin WikiLeaks, stuffing our cryptographic keys of stuff that we publish. So we prove that we have published stuff at a particular time by stuffing it in Bitcoin, in the blockchain. And then if someone were to come and try and modify the material that we have published to take out particular parts, that would be detectable.
An interesting
and
thing.
A lot of systems can be built on that.
Okay, I've spoken to you before.
Whenever you come to an international agreement between companies at a particular time, for example, that could be documented in Bitcoin. And the types of agreements even automated. And so that allows you to start building what I call a full financial stack, which is the types of futures and stocks and multi-party investments and so on. You can start building on this because you can